Welcome to Threatsafe. This is our podcast to help SMEs and SMBs and the people who manage IT within those businesses or responsible for IT to get the very best from the technology that they deploy and then also to manage their cyber security. Let's listen to this week's podcast. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Threatsafe. Episode 10 already. A decade has passed, Toby.
Just seems that way.
It just feels that way, doesn't it? So I'm Martin Roberts, Managing Director of Neuways. I'm here with
Toby Stevenson, Chief Technology Officer at Neuways.
And I know that because I said your name. Okay. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, folks. And if you've been to the threatsafe.co.uk website, you will see that we've been running a campaign about acronyms. And we've got a new one. We've got acronym inflation, I think is the best way to describe it. And it's AiTM, and it's important that the I is a lowercase one. Yeah.
Apparently so. Yeah. Apparently so. I don't know why, but yeah, apparently so. Yeah. So Adversary-in-the-Middle is what we're talking about with AiTM.
Okay, so is this the same as man in the middle, but not gender?
It's very similar, yes, except maybe it's a little bit less gender specific.
Okay, that's fine. And
it also has a connotation that it's someone. A man in the middle may not necessarily be an adversary. Yeah, it may be an agnostic, or it may be something that you want to happen. An adversary in the middle is someone bad getting in the way of your communications.
Do you know? There's people sitting in rooms, not smoke-filled rooms these days, who are thinking of these acronyms, and you've got to admire it, haven't you?
Yeah, they're sitting on beanbags somewhere listening to whale song, probably.
Yes, I think that's probably true, and we respect that, by the way. We're not
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's. I mean, I've been doing some reading up, Toby, but let's take us through a typical adversary in. I tried to do the small I there. Adversary in the middle.
Maybe whisper because it's lowercase. Adversary.
Oh, okay.
The middle.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Go ahead. Tell us.
Yeah. So, as you quite rightly say, very similar to a man in the middle attack. We're seeing a very specific way that this adversary in the middle attack is occurring, and the reason that it's becoming such a common and regular acronym to read about. Essentially, what in an adversary in the middle attack, in the way we're going to talk about it today, is a threat actor is going to insert themselves between you and your preferred destination. So they're going to sit in between you and your Office 365 environment, with the primary purpose of harvesting credentials. Even if you've got MFA, they're going to try and harvest your credentials, and I'll come on to why that's. In the
first instance, how do you get drawn into this?
Invariably, it's some kind of phishing attack. So it's something that is prompting you to try and sign in to your 365 environment, and from that point, they're going to try and steal your information. Now, the way that they do this is, and there's a you can either build something yourself to do this, or actually there are a number of toolkits available on the dark web to facilitate this, which lowers the barrier to entry significantly, because it's something you can just stand up and you can start attacking people with. But essentially what happens is that you get an email that says important document or whatever that sense of urgency, that call to action is. You click on it and it pops up with your Office 365 login page. And you put your username and password in, and it prompts you for MFA, and then it comes back and says, yeah, you signed in, and you go on none the wiser that anything bad's happened. But in the background, the adversary that's been sat in the middle steals your credentials.
Okay, but in that instance, if I need to validate use my multi-factor authentication, it'll pop up on my phone.
Yes.
Is this what's happening in this situation?
This illustrates quite elegantly the ingenuity of the attacker base.
Okay.
So we know that MFA was deployed and pushed hard to try and stop these replica sites popping up, because they couldn't possibly do anything with the MFA, because that was something that was derived from Microsoft. What these adversary-in-the-middle people do is they stand up a service that basically mirrors and proxies your legitimate 365 environment. So they point you to a site which won't have the legitimate Microsoft name in it, but it will look just like your 365 environment, because effectively that's what it's borrowing from.
Yeah.
And what happens is when you sign in, you put your username and password into the proxy site. It sends that off to Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 says, oh, that's a correct bit of information. Here's a prompt for MFA, which it sends back to the proxy site, which it's sent back to you.
Yeah.
You type in the code or do the number match or say approve. That goes back to the proxy site, which bounces it back to Microsoft. Microsoft say, yeah, okay, you've signed in, okay. Here is what we call your session token. This is like your theme park entry ticket. If you've got it, you can get in.
Yeah.
And it sends it back to you via the relay, via the proxy. They take a copy of it. You get it back. You're then signed in. You've got the session token, but the bad guys also got the session token. And once they've got that information, they can replay that through their browser and boom, they're in.
And I was reading not long ago that actually, this is the thing, I used to have a slight admiration for these people, only slight, in that they also had to be quite clever. Yeah. Nowadays you can go on the dark web, and you can pay $250 a month to rent this service, and that gives you, and how many of those you need to do a month to make that pay for itself? It's amazing.
Oh, exactly.
Okay. So how would I know? How would a user know that this is what's happening to them? Oh, okay. Let's go back a step. What don't you do? You never respond to an email or click on a link in an email which says things like, you need to do this now, it's urgent. You need to one-time offer. You need to validate your credentials right now, sort of thing.
Yeah. So there's probably 2 or 3 things that you can realistically do to try and protect yourself. So the first thing is be super suspicious. And as you say, when that email comes in with that sense of urgency, that call to action, just take a moment to validate that it's legit and it is a proper request that's come through. Most of the time, some of the things that you see don't stack up when you take a step back and look at them.
I suppose the other thing is this old thing that my mother used to tell me, and I did actually listen in the end, which is counting to 10 before losing your temper.
Yeah.
And maybe the moment you see something like this, it's worthwhile saying, actually, I'm going to ignore that for a couple of minutes now. Actually, nothing is that urgent. Yeah. Give it a couple of minutes, do something else, and then come back and have a proper look. Never react immediately to anything.
Exactly. It's security awareness training 101. You see something, it looks suspicious, ask somebody, pick up the phone and ring the person that sent it, ask a colleague to take a look. Have you had this email? Does this look legit? All of these things help create that culture of suspicion and can be really effective actually at stopping people clicking on these links.
Okay.
So the second thing is, if you do click on the link, it will take you to a website. And in the address bar of your browser, there will be a URL. And pay close attention to that URL, because it won't be one of the official Microsoft ones. That's the biggie. So
just for the uninitiated, of course, the URL is that in the top bar, it will go https:// www.something Microsoft or micro 5 oft. And
this one can be a little bit trickier.
Yeah,
because what I've seen some attackers do is they use resources from Microsoft Azure so that they get a Microsoft sounding name in the URL to host this.
Get out of here, Toby. Do you mean they pay legitimate proper money?
They paid with somebody's legitimate proper money, probably from a stolen credit card or something like that.
Okay,
but that's speculation.
Yeah.
But so it's look out for what that looks like. It is the key thing, and invariably it will look different to what the correct one looks like. It's hard to say exactly because it depends. And if you're taking one of these hosted services that provides this Adversary-in-the-Middle service, then again they will be quite clever at constructing an address that doesn't rouse suspicion.
Wow. Okay. Gosh, the criminals are quite resourceful sometimes.
They are, and so that's two things you can do to try and spot and prevent yourself falling foul of this. The third thing that can be done is harder than the other two to achieve. But in response to this, Microsoft has built out some technology that they refer to as phish-resistant MFA, or phish-resistant multi-factor authentication. Yeah, phish-resistant, yes.
Phish-resistant, absolutely.
And the idea behind this is it's a mechanism that stops this token theft being able to occur. And there are a number of different ways that you can achieve this. Microsoft are pushing something called passkeys, which is something that you can put into your authenticator app. But you can use little USB tokens. They're called technically they're called FIDO2 keys, but we know them as YubiKeys. Is the kind of like generalization for them. But the idea being is that you don't enter.
This is a physical device.
It's a physical device you plug into your computer, yeah. So the idea being that you don't enter a username and a password, so there's nothing to be stolen. It's a cryptographical exchange which cannot be intercepted.
Okay.
But obviously, these approaches add challenges to deploy to the user base. They're not insurmountable, but if you think of the evolution that we had to go through to get to people using MFA, to change all of that, there are some training issues, let's say, that need to be addressed, and potentially some commercial financial issues to overcome. Sometimes the YubiKey devices have a cost associated to them. If you've got to buy that for 50 or 100 people, that can be not an inexpensive thing to do. If you're making people use passkeys through the authenticator app on their phone, people that might not have a company phone might say, I had MFA on, but I'm not going to do this. So there are some business challenges to overcome for adoption, but essentially that is the current technical way that we stop our MFA being phished.
Now the problem is, of course, it's not a problem, but you as a business, and we this whole podcast and videocast is about people who are responsible for IT don't necessarily run it in SMEs and such like. There is a cost associated to all these different things, and you will judge the cost, whether it's good value, against what the cost of a compromise be. If the cost of compromise is some sort of compromise whereby you can't use your computers for a week whilst you raise some Bitcoin, which isn't as easy as many people might think it might be, then actually, spending £1,000 on kit to protect yourself might actually seem quite a good investment. Now the problem is with all these things is that they tend to they can age quite quickly.
Absolutely. And when you're reliant on a login process where people have got a thing, and then they forget it.
Yes,
if you've got fobs to get access to different parts of the building, and someone forgets the fob, you have to have a process for sorting that out. And it's similar with these things. One of the really frustrating things is in Microsoft's top level licensings, they actually have a software solution that identifies when this has happened and then can force you to change your password and lock your account out and do all these kinds of things, but only in the very top level, super expensive licenses. Whereas what we're seeing actually is this is becoming almost like a run of the mill attack. And it would make sense for Microsoft to kind of release this to the lower level licenses as part of what they're taking, because it's in everybody's interest, and Microsoft has the capability to make this easier for people. So it would be nice if they at some point allowed this to filter down to the mere mortals.
Far be it from us to tell big corporations like Microsoft how to run their business and their commercial structures. But as people who protect end users, it will certainly be beneficial.
Because it exists, but it's hidden behind a paywall, and people can get it. They just got to pay a lot more money than they're paying now for it.
Yeah, and probably use functionality they don't need, and all the other bits and bobs. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they keep things under constant review, and I'm sure somebody's listening, or not, as the case may be.
Yeah. Bill Gates might be listening.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So, I guess we go, going back to the first principle series. I mean, I never, ever, ever click on anything that's sent to me, or any link with any email that's sent to me, even when I know it's legitimate. So somebody sends me a link to a website, I'll always go to the website directly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll always go through. So, folks, don't. So, for instance, if I get sent a link to a website, I wouldn't click on the link in the email, nor would I copy the link in the email and paste it into the URL, into my browser. I would actually go to Google or wherever it is, whichever browser is your favourite, and I would type in something which would lead me to that website. Yes,
yeah. We spoke in the Cybersafe series, in the Cybersafe season of podcasts around the use of Cyrillic characters in URLs, and that's a really good way of someone hiding in plain sight, almost, sending you to the official Microsoft 365 login site as it reads, but it's using a Cyrillic character that mirrors a non-Cyrillic, and it can send you to the wrong place. So yeah, absolutely.
So always use. I mean, so for instance, if I was going, somebody sent me some details of a bank, for instance, and a link to a bank. I don't know why they were, but this is a very poor example in a way. I wouldn't click on the link. I wouldn't copy and paste the link. I'd actually go to Google and type in Barclays, and then I'd eventually get to that website. And the browser would be offering some protection in theory, but it's getting there. It's getting there by my own steam. And do you know what? It's a pain in the backside sometimes, because you'll go off all over the place. It might take you a couple of attempts, but that ease of sacrificing a bit of ease here will give you some protection.
Yeah, I mean, I think instilling that culture of reporting, I think, is really useful. If you can share and get a second opinion on an email you've received, there are some technical things that you can do to try and reduce the chances of one of these spurious sites being visited. So a lot of firewalls with advanced security features on have the ability to block what we call newly registered websites. So if the domain is brand new, it won't let you get there. So if it's normally it's 30 days. So if it's younger than 30 days, normally it won't let you get there. It'll be blocked, and it'll pop up on screen saying it's a newly registered site. Now, a lot of these adversary-in-the-middles, because they are using disposable domains, they can be stood up quite easily, but they fail this 30-day aging threshold in many cases.
So it might well be that companies, businesses, SMEs have some of the tools already. They're just not necessarily utilizing them. And the first thing to do is speak to your IT department, if you have one. If you're using an MSP, speak to them and say, are they deploying best practice? Are they deploying things to help you to protect you from these things as part of their standard service? Yeah. Okay. So is there anything else? Is there anything I could do today if I was the owner of a business? If I was the owner of a business and I wanted to do something without spending huge amounts of money, what would I do today, Toby?
Probably put some information together to send out to the staff to say, this is a new attack method, be wary of it. Knowledge is power in many of these cases. And sometimes people, if they're aware of they could be caught out in this particular way, they may be a little bit more cautious, a little bit more careful. So that would probably be one thing. So try and explain how this adversary-in-the-middle can be used to deceive and even bypass MFA.
I've got this great idea, Toby. They should listen to or watch this podcast.
Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely.
You tell them all. They don't have to explain anything at that point.
No. Yeah. Send them a link. Say, go and check this out ASAP and see how many people click it.
Click on here. But tell them anyway. Threatsafe.co.uk. Okay, good. Right. Anything else people should do today? No cost.
I mean, as you said, speak to your IT department, your MSP. If there are security services on the firewall that, or your web filtering software that will block those newly registered domains, that will absolutely help. Of course, having MFA is still better than not. There's still lots of people out there that are being caught out and don't have MFA. Those usernames and passwords are being captured in some other mechanism. But I see that this adversary in the middle is going to be an ongoing thing, and again, there'll be MSPs and maybe IT departments can subscribe to services that will monitor the 365 environment to try and identify these things. So I mentioned that Microsoft has some capabilities that you can pay for, but if you're prepared to pull the raw log data, you can kind of add 2 and 2 together and see what's going on. Now, practically speaking, it's not possible to do that yourself, but many MSPs offer a service that will do that. I mean, we do ourselves. We have a service that can help monitor that 365 environment for security issues. That's the kind of thing that I see being a useful tool in this battle against these kinds of attacks.
Brilliant.
Just being able to see them and respond in a timely fashion, because once they've got the credentials, then they want to start doing bad things. But if you can find out they've got the credentials, almost straight away and then take action, you kind of limit their window for doing bad things.
Okay. So then I suppose the final question of this podcast, the video cast, is how, Toby, do we stop the proliferation of acronyms in this space? What do we do to prevent any more coming along?
Well, this is a question. I mean, acronyms are really useful. They're a real time saver. So actually, I would say that we don't necessarily need more acronyms. We probably just need more thought. Maybe a central council of acronym creators. Well, something like that.
If you go to the website threatsafe.co.uk, we've got, as part of Cybersecurity Month, we've got an explanation for lots of acronyms, one for every day of the month. I think you feature on there, do you not, Toby, at some point?
I do, yes, for my sins.
There you go. And we've actually gone one beyond here by adding this new acronym. Very interesting. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much for listening or watching. And we'll see you next time. In the meantime, take that advice, be safe, but be suspicious. Take care. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to Threatsafe. We hope you found it enjoyable and informative. Please reach out with any comments, feedback, questions, and we look forward to seeing you soon.